Have Russian forces officially retreated from Urozhaine? And what is next for Ukraine? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's August 13th, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get into it. Okay, first, obviously we've got the control map. The biggest change, and you can see it's literally described as the enemy running away from Urozhaine. And you can see here, this is when the town was contested. You can see in the last maybe, let's see. So as of the 5th of this month, right, Urozhaine entirely Russian controlled, then Russian forces controlling just the town center. Then the Russian forces trying to hold the remaining half of the town as of 2 days ago. And then today, they complete their total abandonment of the town, retreating to behind the, God help me, the Morgaridi River. This is a significant abandonment of their positions. It's one of the things that we have talked about for some time, that these thin roads that connect these towns are in a lot of ways the only route that they can use to withdraw. And remember, with Ukrainian forces controlling this entire western flank, it was a tall order for them to conduct this withdrawal, right? The holdout forces here were under fire from two sides. And I can't show you now, but there is leaked footage from this roadway and Urozhaine generally, and it is wild to see the aftermath of the Russian. Really, it was a rout. It doesn't look like they retreated in good order. And if you want to see that analysis, it's going to be on combatvetnews.com. That's my website that I put all of my premium content on. It's where I can do the analysis that I can't do on YouTube. All the combat videos, GoPro footage, all of that. If you want to become a premium member, it's the best way to support the channel and to keep me independent, able to do this. You see, I don't get many sponsors at all on this channel. I don't get many. I get demonetized pretty regularly. So, but as you can see, we look at a lot of the uncensored combat footage, and I do a deep dive on it. So if you want that, it's going to drop literally later today. So Urozhaine, right? This traumatic Russian withdrawal. And what is interesting to me is that this event is actually combined with some level of success outside Robotyne. You can see over at the combat map, Ukrainian forces are continuing their offensive near Melitopol and Berdyansk, and are reporting, quote, partial success near Robotyne, which generally means a small, less than 1 kilometer advance. But it's indicative, again, that Russian forces, despite withdrawing from Urozhaine to behind this river, they still don't have. They are still barely holding on at Robotyne. So there are some stories in the news about Russian forces purportedly running very low on gear. Very low on people. So Russian mill bloggers are claiming that Russia has started to rob Peter and to pay Paul, so to speak, where, for example, elements of the VDV are fighting. There's the 7th Guards of the VDV are fighting near Robotyne. Kadyrov has had to deploy his Akhmat battalion also to defensive efforts near Robotyne. And the but as you can see, Kadyrov, right, generally deploys some of his Akhmat brigades to critical sectors of the front line. It says in order to earn favor from Putin. More likely, he's ordered to deploy them simply because that is where they are most needed. But that they were fighting near Klitschivka, and that now, of course, they're in Robotyne. You have Russian sources claiming that elements of the VDV have been deployed from the bank of the Dnieper, right, to Zaporizhzhia, away from the hydroelectric dam. These divisions are being split, traded off, pulled from one area, put to the other area, and you can see that this is a sign, according to ISW, that Russia is low on operational reserves. right? That they cannot rotate units, that attrition, there's not replacements. Now, bear in mind, guys, that this assessment that Russia has no operational reserves is kind of incompatible with the fact that, again, just a few days ago, you saw, or rather about a month ago now, you saw Russian forces stage a fairly robust attack into the Kupiansk direction. You can see it here. Staging nearly a breakthrough, and then were pushed back by Ukrainian forces. And what is sort of interesting about that is, again, that's not the actions of a military that has no reserves. They may simply be deploying their reserves differently. They may not have a reserve of well-trained troops, but you don't go on big offensive pushes if you, in other areas, don't have reserve elements to provide some level of relief to your forces. So again, I think Russia has maybe their reserve are mobilized troops or conscripts being trained and are being prepared to be pushed to the front lines. Maybe these units have some sort of individual rotation, but generally, as you know, we listen to a lot of leaked phone calls, and the rumor is that there's not a lot of combat rotation happening, period, full stop, anywhere in the Russian forces. So it's not unlikely that this larger that this breakthrough near Urozhaine may be indicative of Russian forces reaching some sort of critical breaking point, right? Ukrainian forces are trying to maintain rotations. They have fresh brigades they can rotate in. They seem to be taking attritionally somewhat fewer casualties. As discussed, though, Russia's ability to generate manpower from its population is much greater than Ukraine's, though it sort of hamstrings itself by not having conscripts in the fight. So it's really tough to know, right? But this is a sign for optimism. Generally, Russian forces do not want to retreat from these major sectors. And when we look again at the fortification map, you can see that even with this retreat, there's still quite a ways to Russia's main fortification lines. But the question is sort of remains, even if you broke through these fortification lines, who in the Russian military would be left to actually man them? Again, if they're sparsely defended, then they are sparsely defended. It's not like these battle lines have some sort of ready-made, they don't have fresh troops sitting in them waiting for Ukrainian forces to get there. So I would say cautiously optimistic news. Definitely good to see a significant change in territory and a very rare event to see Russian forces withdraw entirely from an area. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Of course, a big thank you to our Colonel tier members at combatvetnews.com, as well as a shout out to all of our Lieutenant tier members. Thank you guys. Thanks to everyone who hit subscribe, hit like on the video, and of course, joined us on the live stream on Saturday. All right. Thanks again. Cheers.